Hi everyone, this is Messianic News Channel. Welcome to another episode of Messianic News. And today we have a very important teaching to share with all of you. First of all, the Bible is a prophetic book. It's a book of life, resurrection, but also is a historical book. So without understanding the historical aspect, we're going to miss in a lot of the stories in the Bible. Let me just give you an example. When you read the book of Acts, there is this fascinating story about Paul, all of his missionary journeys, and after so many years of being witnessing the good news throughout the whole Mediterranean, he comes back to Jerusalem, where he gets arrested and then he gets judged. A lot of people just read this text randomly and they don't understand the amount of historical wealth that is behind the text. Without understanding history, you are missing already like half of the Bible. And it's fascinating to know history because you also understand the Father's judgment and understand prophecy in a way, deeper way. We know that those that listen to the angels of the Almighty got blessed. Those that didn't listen to him, they got judged. But now, without further delay, let us go to Paul and let us understand a little bit the historical context. So from the book of Acts, we know that he was arrested. We know that he was tried by a guy named Felix. We know there was another Roman governor called Festus. We know there was a high priest that ordered Paul to be slapped in the face. We know that there was a King Agrippa, and we know that there was another high priest called Hananiah or Ananus ben Ananus. So what does this mean with the story of Paul? Well, it's very interesting because if you understand the historical context, the chapter where Paul gets judged in the book of Acts comes alive and is way more meaningful. So let us begin with his trial. He was tried by Felix. According to the New Testament, this was a very corrupted guy because he was expecting, instead of, when he witnessed that Paul was innocent, instead of letting him go free, he kept him in prison, expecting to receive some kind of reward from him, some kind of bribe. So he was a pretty corrupted guy. Now the historical account verifies that he was pretty corrupted. And what happened is, after refusing to set Paul free and after disbelieving his message, he was fired by the emperor of Rome. And he was close to being executed, but there was some intercession, so he was not executed. But his son died in the explosion of the Vesuvius volcano in Italy, and he died, according to the historians, of tuberculosis. A lot of people just see like Felix judging Paul, not believing his message, but they don't have any clue what happened to him. So here we have Paul, the messenger of the Almighty, carrying the words of the living Elohim, which are not a joke, is the end of days. Those that listen to the message get blessed. Those that don't listen to the message get judged. So we have this Felix. Without a reason, he keeps Paul in prison. He's a very corrupted guy. So what happens later on? Well, heavenly judgment happens. And we get this from the studying the historical aspect. He got deposed of being governor of Judah by emperor of Rome, and he died of tuberculosis. That's a horrible death. So he definitely got judged. Now let's go to actor number 2. Festus. Festus was the new governor of Judea, and actually Paul was called before Festus to testify about his faith and everything he did. Well, Festus also disbelieved Paul, and instead of setting him free, also left him in prison. And mysteriously, after a very, very short time in office, also Festus died. Now let's go to another guy, Jonathan ben Ananus, a high priest in Jerusalem. This is the high priest that ordered Paul to be slapped in the face when he was on trial before the Roman governor. And Paul said to him, Elohim will strike you. And then they say to him, this is the high priest. And Paul apologized because he realized it's not proper to talk like that before the high priest. Nevertheless, Paul said, you judge me according to the law, and then contrary to the law, you order that I be smitten or stricken or beaten. So there was definitely judgment with this guy. And what happened with this guy is that Governor Felix, there was a lot of corruption back then in Judea, and Governor Felix ordered the execution of this guy, Ananus, and he was assassinated, stabbed to death in Jerusalem. So we have three people that judged Paul very unfairly, and they fell into judgment almost immediately. Then we have another guy, King Agrippa II, and this is also the king that listened to Paul's argument, and again he mocked his argument. He didn't set him free, and he didn't believe his report. So what happened after this? Right after this, a very short time after this, Agrippa was deposed as the last king of Israel. He was a Roman client, and that was the end of the Herodian dynasty. No more in history one of the descendants of Herod would be governor of any territory of Israel. So he also gets judged. Very interesting. And now let us go to another priest, which is Ananus ben Ananus, not to confuse it with Jonathan Ananus that ordered Paul to be slapped in the face. This is another one that came to take office, Ananus ben Ananus, and he's the one that ordered the stoning of James. James happens to be the brother of Yeshua. So what happens after this? He gets assassinated. And the interesting thing is that all of this is happening around the year 60 AD. All of these events are happening between 59 and 64 AD, and that's exactly the time when the Jewish revolution happened. So all of the Sanhedrin plotting to kill the believers and plotting to kill Paul, and the corruption of the high priest, and the corruption of King Agrippa, and the corruption of Festus and Felix, all of these guys, all of that judgment came prophesied by Yeshua on that generation. So in the year 66 AD, a very short time after Paul's trials and after the killing of Stephen, the brother of Yeshua, it begins the Jewish revolution against the Roman Empire, and the Romans killed all of those people in the Sanhedrin, and they completely obliterate Israel. So all of those people that were waging war against Yeshua and against the New Testament got completely wiped out. Now, we need to bring into consciousness, it's very dangerous to go against the Almighty. That's why this very famous member of the Sanhedrin, Gamaliel, he advised the Sanhedrin not to touch this man, because if their message is of Elohim, it will be established. You will be fighting against Elohim. It's dangerous. If it's not of Elohim, they will just die, and you don't need to do anything, but leave this man alone. So they didn't leave this man alone, and then judgment happened. So we have Felix being judged. He treated Paul very unfairly, and also the believers. We have Festus being judged. He also treated Paul and the believers very unfairly. We have Jonathan Ananus, high priest. He got assassinated after ordering Paul to be slapped in the face. We have King Agrippa, didn't believe in the message of Paul and thought that Paul was crazy. He was deposed as being king, and that was the end of a Herodian dynasty that lasted about 100 years. And then we have this other high priest, Ananus ben Ananus, that ordered the execution of James, and he was also assassinated. And eventually all of the Sanhedrin and all of the rebellion and all of those that were opposing Paul and Yeshua and the apostles were killed in the brutal Roman war between 66 AD and 70 AD. But at the same time, also Rome was judged. Rome was a pagan empire, destroy Israel, oppress Israel, and not all of the Romans received the message of the good news. A lot of the Romans persecuted believers for a long time, so there was a revolution of Rome. Caesars were assassinated, and the whole empire was about to crumble at the same time that the temple was burning in Jerusalem. So Israel got judged, but also the entire world got judged. So I hope you enjoyed this historical perspective of Messianic news, and stay updated. Stay tuned for more teachings on Messianic News channel. Thanks all of you. Have a blessed day.